The autumn rain fell like tears against my bedroom window, a rhythmic patter that matched my heartbeat, as I pressed my hand against my still flat stomach. 3 weeks had passed since I'd last seen Nathaniel. 3 weeks since the Alpha King of the Northern Territories had looked at me with those golden eyes that once held warmth and whispered words that shattered everything between us. A mistake. That's all I was to him. The small apartment I'd rented on the outskirts of Silver Creek felt both like a sanctuary and a prison. I'd chosen it for its distance from the packlands, for the anonymity it offered among humans who knew nothing of Lycans or the politics that governed our world. The scent of chamomile tea wafted from the mug on my nightstand, a desperate attempt to calm my nausea that had become a morning ritual. I moved to the window, watching droplets trace patterns down the glass. My pale blonde hair fell in waves past my shoulders, and I caught my reflection, hollow cheeks, dark circles beneath eyes that had once been bright. My grandmother would have been disappointed to see me this way. She had raised me to be stronger than this after my parents died in the territorial wars when I was just a child. "Stand tall, Elise," she would say, pressing the silver pendant into my palm. "Even when the world tries to make you small." I touched the crescent moon pendant at my throat now, the last thing she'd given me before she too had passed. It was warm against my skin, as though it carried some fragment of her strength. I needed that strength now more than ever. A knock at the door made me freeze. My senses, already heightened by the pregnancy, went on full alert. I could smell pine and winter, a scent I recognized immediately. My best friend Lucas, the only person from the pack who knew where I'd gone. "Open the door, Elise. I know you're in there." His voice was low, urgent. When I pulled the door open, Lucas's tall frame filled the entrance. His dark eyes immediately assessed me, cataloging the changes that 3 weeks had wrought. "You look terrible," he said, pushing past me into the apartment. "Thanks. Always the charmer." I closed the door, leaning against it. "What are you doing here? Did anyone follow you?" Lucas shook his head, his expression grave. "No, I was careful. But things are happening, Elise. The pack is restless. Nathaniel has been—" He trailed off, watching me too carefully. "What?" "Celebrating his freedom from his human mistake." The words tasted bitter. Lucas's eyes flashed with anger. Don't call yourself that." "Why not?" "It's what he called me." The memory of that night in his study still burned like acid, the way his face had changed when the council members had entered, how quickly he distanced himself from me. "I made a mistake getting involved with a human. It ends now." He didn't mean it. He was speaking to the Eastern Council. They were threatening war if he continued his relationship with you. "You know how they feel about humans." I laughed, the sound hollow. "Except I'm not fully human, am I? Just enough to be a contamination in their precious bloodlines." My hand moved unconsciously to my stomach. "And now—" Lucas's gaze followed the movement. His eyes widened. "Elise, are you—" The question hung in the air between us. I hadn't told anyone, had barely acknowledged it myself until the second test confirmed what my body had already known. "I'm carrying his children." My voice broke. "Twins. I can hear their heartbeats." Lucas sank into the chair by the window, running a hand through his dark hair. "Holy shit. Does Nathaniel know?" "No, and he won't." My voice hardened. "He made his choice. I'm making mine. Elise, you can't just disappear with the Alpha King's heirs. When he finds out, he won't find out. I'm leaving Silver Creek tomorrow. I've already packed." I gestured to the small suitcase by the bed. "I have some money saved, enough to start somewhere new, somewhere far from pack territories." Lucas stood, his expression shifting from shock to determination. "You can't do this alone. These aren't just any children. They're royal Lycans. The pregnancy alone will be dangerous for someone with human blood." I turned away, not wanting him to see the fear I felt. I'd been researching obsessively, reading every scrap of information about Lycan human pregnancies. The statistics weren't comforting. "I don't have a choice, Lucas. If the council finds out, they'll either force me to terminate or they'll take them away once they're born. You know how they are. Half-breeds aren't exactly welcomed with open arms." The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken truths. I'd seen how the few half-human children in the territory were treated, always on the outskirts, never fully accepted. I couldn't bear that for my children. And I couldn't bear to see the disgust in Nathaniel's eyes when he looked at them the way he'd looked at me that night. There's something else. Lucas's voice was hesitant. Rumors about the Black River Pack crossing our borders. There have been attacks on the outer settlements. A chill ran through me. The Black River Pack was notorious for their brutality, for their hatred of humans and those with mixed blood. All the more reason for me to leave, I whispered. Lucas crossed the room, taking my hands in his. Let me help you. My cousin has a cabin in the mountains, hundreds of miles from any pack territory. You can stay there, at least until the babies are born. I looked up at him, this friend who had stood by me even when the pack turned their backs. Why would you risk Nathaniel's anger for me? A sad smile touched his lips. Because I remember when you first came to Silver Creek, this scared human girl with secrets in her eyes. You were kind to me when others weren't. Besides, he added, his smile turning mischievous, someone needs to make sure those pups don't inherit their father's terrible taste in music. Despite everything, I laughed. The sound surprised me, like finding a forgotten treasure. We'll leave at dawn, Lucas said, his expression turning serious again. Pack only what you need. I'll handle the rest. After he left, I stood in the quiet apartment, listening to the rain. My hand returned to my stomach, to the tiny lives growing inside me. We'll be okay, I whispered, hoping they could hear me, hoping I wasn't lying. As night fell, I moved around the apartment, gathering the few things I couldn't leave behind. My grandmother's journals, the photograph of my parents, a small wooden box containing pressed flowers from the first time Nathaniel had taken me into the forest. Memories I should discard but couldn't bring myself to burn. The phone on my nightstand lit up with a message. For a moment, my heart leapt, thinking irrationally that it might be him. But it was only the clinic confirming my appointment for the following week, an appointment I would never keep. Sleep eluded me that night. I lay awake, listening to the storm intensify, thinking of the path ahead. I'd grown up on the edges of pack life, never fully belonging because of my human father. My mother had been cast out for loving him, and after their deaths, my grandmother had raised me in the human world, teaching me to hide what Lycan blood I had. It wasn't until after her death that I'd returned to Silver Creek, drawn by some nameless need to understand that part of myself. And then I'd met Nathaniel, the Alpha King who saw me when no one else did. Or so I had thought. A crash of thunder startled me from my thoughts. With it came a wave of awareness, a change in the air pressure, a scent that didn't belong. I sat up, heart racing, senses alert. Someone was outside. Moving silently, I slipped from the bed and crept to the window. Through the rain-streaked glass, I could make out a shadow moving near the tree line that bordered the apartment complex. Too large to be human, too deliberate to be coincidental. My phone buzzed with a text from Lucas. Don't react. You're being watched. Stay inside. Coming to you. Fear clawed at my throat. Had they found me already? Had Lucas been followed despite his precautions? Another shadow joined the first, and then a third. They weren't trying to hide now. 3 massive wolves at the edge of the property, their eyes reflecting the streetlights like burning coals. Not Nathaniel's wolves. These were darker, their posture aggressive. Black River Scouts. My hand went instinctively to my stomach, to the vulnerable lives I carried. I had to protect them, had to get out. But as I backed away from the window, preparing to grab my emergency bag, headlights swept across the parking lot. A black SUV pulled up, and 4 figures emerged. Even through the rain, I recognized the silver crest on their jackets, the Northern Territory Royal Guard. And leading them, his tall figure unmistakable even at this distance, was Nathaniel. My breath caught. For a moment, I was transported back to the first time I'd seen him. Commanding, beautiful, his presence filling every room he entered. The man who had looked at me as though I were something precious, something rare. The wolves at the tree line retreated as Nathaniel and his guards approached the building. I could hear footsteps on the stairs coming closer. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. Did he know? Had Lucas betrayed my secret? A knock on the door. Firm, authoritative. Elise, His voice, deep and familiar, sent a tremor through me. "Open the door." I stood frozen, one hand on my pendant, the other protectively over my stomach. I couldn't face him, couldn't bear to see the coldness in his eyes again. "Elise, please." Something in his tone had changed. "There's danger. I need to know you're safe." Before I could decide, there was a commotion in the hallway. Voices, a growl, the sound of something heavy hitting the wall. Then Lucas's voice, urgent. "Elise, run! Back door, now!" The window behind me shattered inward, showering me with glass. I screamed, throwing my arms up to protect my face. A massive black wolf landed in the center of my bedroom, its yellow eyes fixed on me with a hunger that had nothing to do with food. The door burst open, and Nathaniel was there, his eyes glowing gold with rage. Behind him, I caught a glimpse of Lucas struggling with 2 guards. "Nathaniel," I gasped, backing away from the snarling wolf. For a heartbeat, his eyes met mine across the chaos of the room. And in them, I saw something that made my heart stutter. Not disgust or coldness, but fear. Raw, primal fear. Then the black wolf lunged for my throat. Everything happened in a blur of motion and sound. Nathaniel moved with inhuman speed. Intercepting the black wolf mid-leap, they collided with a thunderous crash, sending my bedside lamp shattering to the floor. The darkness that followed was alive with growls and the sounds of claws against wood. I pressed myself against the wall, desperately searching for an escape route. Through the broken window, I could see more shapes gathering in the darkness, more Black River wolves drawn by the commotion. The apartment that had been my sanctuary was now a trap closing in around me. Lucas broke free from the guards and rushed to my side. "The fire escape," he hissed, gripping my arm. "We have to go now." A roar of pain cut through the chaos. Nathaniel. The sound of his agony tore through me like a physical wound. Despite everything he'd said, everything he'd done, I couldn't bear the thought of him hurt. I hesitated, looking back into the darkness where gold eyes met mine for just a moment before the black wolf attacked again. "He'll be fine," Lucas urged, pulling me toward the window. "He's the Alpha King, but you, those babies, you won't survive if they get their hands on you." The truth of his words propelled me forward. I grabbed my small emergency bag and followed Lucas out onto the metal fire escape. The rain had intensified, turning the metal slippery beneath our feet. Below us, 2 Black River wolves paced, waiting. "We'll never make it past them," I whispered. Lucas's face was grim in the storm-fractured light. "Yes, we will." He pulled off his jacket and pressed it into my hands. "Put this on. It has my scent. Then run east toward the old mill. Don't stop for anything. I'll lead them away." "Lucas, no, this isn't a debate, Elise." His eyes softened for a moment. "Those pups are the future, whether their father deserves them or not." Before I could stop him, he leapt from the fire escape, shifting mid-air into his wolf form, a blur of dark brown fur that landed gracefully despite the height. He charged at the waiting Black River wolves, catching them by surprise, then darted away toward the west, his howl a clear challenge. The Black River wolves hesitated only a moment before giving chase, drawn by the prospect of taking down a royal guard. I pulled Lucas's jacket tightly around me, offering a small prayer for his safety, and began descending the fire escape as quickly as I dared. Each metal step sent reverberations of fear through my body, but I forced myself to focus, get to the ground, run east, find safety, protect the babies. The sounds of fighting from my apartment intensified, furniture breaking, walls cracking, roars that seemed to shake the very air. I tried not to think about Nathaniel facing the Black River Alpha alone, tried not to remember the way his eyes had once looked at me when he thought I was sleeping. Tender, vulnerable, a glimpse of the man behind the crown. That man was gone now, if he had ever existed at all. My feet finally touched the wet grass, and I ran. The old mill stood on the eastern edge of Silver Creek, a remnant of the town's logging past. It would offer shelter and a defensible position if I could reach it. I kept to the shadows, moving as silently as my partially human nature would allow. The rain helped mask my scent, but I knew it wouldn't be enough if they came looking with purpose. Black River wolves were infamous for their tracking abilities, bred into them through generations of hunting humans. I was halfway to the mill when the stitch in my side became unbearable. My pregnancy, though only weeks along, was already changing my body in ways I hadn't anticipated. I leaned against a tree, breathing hard, listening to the night. The forest around Silver Creek had once been a place of comfort for me. Now every shadow held potential danger, every snapping twig a threat. I touched my grandmother's pendant, drawing strength from the connection to her. "Just a little further," I whispered to my unborn children. "We're almost there." A howl split the night, close, too close, not Lucas, not Nathaniel. The sound carried a foreign signature, aggressive and hungry. Black River had found my trail. Ignoring the pain in my side, I pushed away from the tree and ran. The old mill loomed ahead, its broken windows like empty eye sockets in the darkness. I scrambled up the embankment toward it, my fingers digging into mud and stone. Just as I reached the mill's loading dock, a weight slammed into me from behind. I crashed forward onto the wooden planks. The breath knocked from my lungs, hot breath against my neck, the pressure of a massive paw between my shoulder blades. "The Alpha King's human pet," a voice growled, the words distorted through a partially shifted mouth. "Not so protected now, are you?" I struggled beneath his weight, panic making my movements frantic. "Get off me!" The Black River wolf, man now, though barely, leaned closer, inhaling deeply along my neck. "You smell different." His body stiffened suddenly. "You're carrying." Cold dread washed through me. I stopped struggling, my mind racing for a way out of this nightmare. "The Alpha's seed in a human womb." He spat the words like venom. "An abomination. The council will reward us well for stopping this before it begins." His clawed hand moved toward my stomach. In that moment, something inside me changed, a primal protective instinct that transcended fear, with strength I didn't know I possessed. I twisted beneath him and drove my elbow upward into his throat. The blow caught him by surprise. He reared back, clutching at his crushed windpipe, and I scrambled away, pushing myself to my feet. But he recovered quickly, fury replacing shock in his yellow eyes. "I was going to make this quick," he snarled, advancing on me. "Now I'll make you watch as I cut them out." A sound escaped me then, not a scream or a plea, but a growl that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than my conscious mind. The small amount of Lycan blood in my veins sang with ancient memory. With the need to defend what was mine, I backed toward the mill entrance, searching desperately for a weapon. My hand closed around a rusted pipe, and I swung it before me like a sword. "Stay back." The Black River wolf laughed, the sound chilling in its lack of humanity. "You think you can fight me, half-breed? I've killed full Lycan stronger than you." He lunged, faster than my eyes could track. The pipe connected with his shoulder, but it barely slowed him. His claws raked across my arm, drawing blood. The pain was white-hot, immediate. I stumbled backward through the mill entrance, into the cavernous main room where ancient machinery loomed like sleeping giants. "Nowhere to run now," he growled, following me inside. I retreated further into the shadows, desperately searching for an advantage. The mill's second level was accessible by a metal staircase. If I could reach it, I might find a defensible position or another exit. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, trying to buy time, to keep him talking while I edged toward the stairs. "Why does Black River care about Nathaniel's choices?" The wolf prowled closer, his movements predatory, patient. "This isn't about the Alpha King. It's about keeping bloodlines pure. Humans weakened the old packs. We won't let it happen again. My children have done nothing to you," I said, my voice breaking despite my attempt at strength. "They exist. That's enough." He paused, tilting his head as though listening to something I couldn't hear. A slow, cruel smile spread across his face, and soon, they won't. He knew something I didn't. The realization sent fear spiraling through me. I turned and ran for the stairs, no longer caring about stealth. The Black River wolf was right behind me, his breath hot on my heels. I reached the staircase and began to climb, the metal steps slick with rain that poured through holes in the mill's roof. Halfway up, my foot slipped. I fell hard, the edge of a step cutting into my ribs. Pain exploded through my side, but survival instinct pushed me forward. I scrambled upward on hands and knees. At the top of the stairs, I burst through a door into what must have been the mill manager's office. Broken furniture and papers yellowed with age littered the floor. The windows were intact here, offering a view of the forest and, in the distance, the lights of Silver Creek, so close, yet impossibly far. The door crashed open behind me. The Black River Wolf filled the frame, his eyes reflecting the sporadic lightning like something from a nightmare. "End of the line, half-breed," he growled. I backed away until I hit the wall, one hand still protectively covering my stomach. My fingers brushed against something on the desk beside me, a letter opener, ancient but still sharp. I gripped it, concealing it in the fold of Lucas's jacket. "If you kill me, Nathaniel will hunt you down," I said, lifting my chin defiantly. The wolf laughed. "The Alpha King made his position on you very clear to the council. A mistake, he called you. One he was eager to correct." He moved closer. "No one will mourn you, human. No one will even remember your name." His words cut deeper than any claw, because I feared they were true, despite the way Nathaniel had looked at me tonight, despite the fear I'd seen in his eyes. At the core, nothing had changed. I was still the mistake he needed to erase. "You're wrong," I whispered, more to myself than to him. "My children will know my name. They'll know I fought for them." The wolf tensed, preparing to spring. I gripped the letter opener tightly, knowing it was a pitiful defense but determined to make him bleed before he took me down. The attack never came. The window behind me shattered inward in a spray of glass and splintered wood. A massive silver wolf landed between me and my attacker, its stance protective, its growl a rumble that seemed to shake the very foundations of the mill. Nathaniel. Blood matted his fur, evidence of his fight at my apartment. But he stood strong, his presence filling the room with lethal intent. The Black River Wolf faltered, taking a step back. "Alpha King," he stammered, shifting partially back to human form. "This human carries an abomination." Nathaniel's roar cut him off. In one fluid motion, he launched himself at the Black River Wolf. What followed wasn't a fight, but an execution. I turned away, unable to watch the brutal efficiency with which Nathaniel dispatched his enemy. When silence fell, I slowly looked back. Nathaniel stood in his human form now, breathing hard, his bare chest covered in blood, both his and not his. His eyes, when they met mine, held too many emotions for me to untangle. "Are you hurt?" His voice was rough, strained. I shook my head, not trusting my voice. The letter opener slipped from my fingers, clattering to the floor. Nathaniel took a step toward me, then stopped, as if uncertain of his welcome. "Lucas told me everything," he said quietly. "About the pregnancy, about your plans to leave." My heart stuttered in my chest. He had no right. He had every right. "You're carrying my children." The possessive pronoun sent a wave of anger through me. Am I? Or am I carrying a mistake? An abomination, as your friend there so kindly put it? Pain flashed across Nathaniel's face. "Elise, don't." I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly cold despite Lucas's jacket. "I heard you that night. Everyone heard you. The human mistake you needed to correct. Well, I'm correcting it for you. By leaving." Nathaniel ran a hand through his dark hair, a gesture of frustration I'd seen 100 times. "What you heard, it wasn't what I meant. It seemed pretty clear to me. The Eastern Council was threatening war, Elise. They had intelligence about us, about you. They were going to use our relationship as grounds to challenge my rule." His eyes held mine, pleading for understanding. I said what I had to say to buy time, to protect you. By humiliating me? By cutting me out of your life without a word of explanation? The anger that had been building for weeks spilled out. "You didn't even have the decency to tell me to my face. You just disappeared. Left me wondering what I'd done wrong, how I could have misread everything so completely." Nathaniel flinched as if I'd struck him. "I thought it would be easier that way, cleaner." "Easier for whom?" "For both of us." He took a step closer. "But I was wrong, Elise. So wrong. These weeks without you." He shook his head, words seeming to fail him. I wanted to believe him. God, how I wanted to. But the memory of that night, of the cold dismissal in his eyes, was still too fresh. "It doesn't matter now," I said, steadying my voice. I'm leaving Silver Creek. Tonight. You can go back to your council and your perfect Lycan bloodlines and pretend I never existed. Something dangerous flashed in Nathaniel's eyes. You're not going anywhere. Not with my children. His words hung in the air between us. A command rather than a request. The alpha in him was showing, the king who expected obedience, who was accustomed to having his will be law. They're my children too, I said quietly, my hand returning to my stomach, and I won't let them grow up as outsiders, mocked for their human blood. Nathaniel's expression softened, but the determination in his eyes remained. Things are changing, Elise. I'm changing them. A few words from you won't erase generations of prejudice. I moved toward the door, keeping distance between us. My body ached from the fight, from the fall on the stairs, from weeks of stress and inadequate sleep. The Black River Pack isn't the only threat. Your own council would see these babies destroyed. I won't let that happen. Nathaniel stepped forward, closing the gap between us. His scent, pine forests after rain, leather, something wild that defied description, enveloped me, achingly familiar. I can protect you, both of you. Like you protected me 3 weeks ago? The words came out sharper than intended, but I couldn't take them back. Pain flashed across his face. I deserve that. But Elise, you have to understand. A howl cut through the night, followed by another and another. A chorus of voices rising from the forest around the mill. Nathaniel tensed, moving to the broken window. Black River reinforcements, they're surrounding the mill. He turned to me. Decision made. We need to get you out of here, now. Lucas is meeting us with transportation at the North Road. Nathaniel's voice brooked no argument. We move fast, stay together. Despite my anger, despite my hurt, I knew he was right. The babies came first. My personal feelings had to wait. Fine. I nodded once, sharply. Lead the way. Nathaniel's eyes lingered on me a moment longer, as if he wanted to say more, but the howls were growing closer. He moved to the door, checked the landing, then motioned me forward. Stay behind me. If I tell you to run, you run. No questions. We descended the stairs more carefully than I had climbed them. At the bottom, Nathaniel paused, listening. The massive main floor of the mill was darker now, the storm having knocked out what little ambient light had filtered through before. Rain continued to pour through the holes in the roof, creating miniature waterfalls that splashed against ancient machinery. 8, maybe 10 Black River wolves, Nathaniel murmured, his voice so low I barely caught the words. They're spreading out, searching entry points. Can we fight that many? Even as I asked, I knew the answer. Nathaniel was powerful, but he'd already been wounded in the earlier fights. And I, with my limited Lycan abilities, was more of a liability than an asset. Nathaniel's hand found mine in the darkness, his fingers warm against my cold skin. We're not going to fight. We're going to disappear. There was a grim smile in his voice. I didn't spend 5 years as a ranger in the border wars without learning a few tricks. He guided me deeper into the mill, away from the main entrance. The building was larger than it appeared from outside, with a maze of rooms that had once housed different stages of the logging process. We moved silently through what might have been a drying room, past enormous kilns, toward a back wall where loading bays had once opened to the river. Most of these bays were sealed when the mill closed, Nathaniel whispered. But there should be. Yes. He stopped at what appeared to be a solid wall, but when he pressed against a specific panel, revealed itself to be a narrow door. Emergency exit. All these old places have them. The door opened onto a steep embankment that led down to the river. The water, swollen with rain, rushed past just 20 feet below us, its surface broken by rocks and fallen trees. That's our way out, Nathaniel said, gesturing to the river. The current will carry our scents away, make it impossible for them to track us. I looked at the churning water, then back at him in disbelief. You want us to swim? In that? Not exactly. Nathaniel's eyes held a hint of the recklessness I'd first been drawn to in him, the wild spirit beneath the controlled exterior of the Alpha King. We're going to ride it. There's a tributary about half a mile downstream that leads toward the North Road. Lucas will meet us where it passes under the bridge. A crash from inside the mill told us our time was running out. The Black River wolves had found our trail. "Trust me," Nathaniel said, his eyes serious now. "I won't let anything happen to you. To any of you." I wanted to tell him it was too late for trust, that he'd broken something between us that couldn't be easily repaired. But the sound of claws against metal inside the mill made the decision for me. "What do we do?" I asked. Nathaniel's response was to pick me up as if I weighed nothing, cradling me against his chest. "Hold on tight," he murmured, "and when we hit the water, don't let go of me, no matter what." Before I could protest, he leapt from the embankment. My scream was lost in the rush of air as we plummeted toward the river below. Nathaniel twisted in midair, positioning his body to take the impact. We hit the water with shocking force. Cold enveloped us, stole the breath from my lungs. For a terrifying moment, I thought we would be pulled under, swept away by the current, but Nathaniel's arms were iron around me, keeping my head above water as we were caught in the river's flow. "Grab that!" he shouted over the roar of the water, nodding toward a large log that floated nearby, part of a tree uprooted by the storm. Together, we maneuvered toward it, Nathaniel helping me to lie along its length while he swam alongside, guiding our makeshift raft through the rapids. Above us, on the embankment by the mill, dark shapes appeared, Black River wolves, their howls of frustration carrying over the storm. The river carried us swiftly away from the mill, around a bend that hid us from our pursuers. The rain continued to fall, washing away blood and fear, though not the bone-deep cold that had settled into me. I clung to the log, watching Nathaniel's powerful form cutting through the water beside me, and tried not to think about hypothermia or what the stress might be doing to the babies. True to Nathaniel's word, a smaller tributary appeared on our left. He guided our log into it, the calmer waters a relief after the tumultuous main river. Here, overhanging trees provided some shelter from the rain, and the current was gentle enough that Nathaniel could pull himself onto the log beside me. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice tight with concern. His hand found mine, fingers intertwining automatically as they had so many times before. I nodded, teeth chattering too much for words. My clothes clung to me, heavy with water, and exhaustion pulled at my limbs. Nathaniel pulled me against him, sharing his warmth. Lycan body temperature ran several degrees hotter than human, something I'd always found comforting on cold nights. Despite everything, I found myself leaning into his heat. "The bridge is just ahead," he murmured after we'd floated in silence for several minutes. "Lucas should be waiting." I lifted my head from his shoulder, straining to see through the rain. The tributary curved once more, and there, spanning its width, was the old stone bridge that marked the northern boundary of Silver Creek. A figure stood atop it, silhouetted against headlights. Lucas. Nathaniel guided our log to the bank beneath the bridge, helping me onto the muddy shore. My legs were numb with cold, unsteady beneath me. Without a word, he lifted me again, carrying me up the embankment to where Lucas waited with an idling SUV. "About time," Lucas said, relief evident in his voice. I was starting to think. He broke off, looking past us into the darkness. "We need to go. Now." Nathaniel placed me in the back seat, wrapping a blanket around my shoulders before climbing in beside me. Lucas took the wheel, accelerating away from the bridge with a spray of gravel. "Black River?" Nathaniel asked, his body still tense, alert. Lucas nodded grimly. "They're everywhere. Patrols on all the main roads. They've got silver weapons." His eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. "They know about the babies." A chill that had nothing to do with my wet clothes ran through me. Silver was lethal to full Lycans, painful even to those like me with diluted blood. I'd seen the scars it left on Nathaniel's shoulder from an old border skirmish, a wound that had never fully healed. "How?" Nathaniel's voice was deadly quiet. "Traitor in the council," Lucas replied, his hands tight on the steering wheel. "Morgan has been feeding information to Black River for months. Plans, patrol schedules, your relationship with Elise." Nathaniel cursed, a guttural sound that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Morgan was his chief advisor, a man who had served Nathaniel's father before him. I'd always sensed his disapproval, but betrayal was something else entirely. "Where are we going?" I asked, watching unfamiliar forest pass by the windows. "Somewhere safe," Lucas answered, turning onto a nearly invisible dirt road that wound deeper into the mountains. A place not even Morgan knows about. The road grew rougher, the forest denser around us. I leaned my head against the window, exhaustion making my thoughts sluggish. My hand rested on my stomach, seeking reassurance in the tiny heartbeats I could sense there. "They're strong," Nathaniel said quietly, his eyes following my movement, like their mother. I wanted to hold on to my anger, to keep the wall between us intact. But fatigue made it difficult. "How do you know?" "I can hear them." His voice was soft with wonder, faint but steady, two distinct rhythms. Of course he could hear them. Alpha Lycans had heightened senses beyond even normal werewolves. Something loosened in my chest at the tenderness in his voice when he spoke of our children. "I thought you would hate them," I whispered, the words escaping before I could stop them. For being part human, Nathaniel's face registered shock, then deep pain. "Elise, no, never." His hand hovered over mine, not quite touching. "How could you think that? You called me a mistake." The words still hurt to say aloud. "Not you." His voice broke. "Never you. The mistake was mine. Letting the council dictate my actions, letting them threaten what we had. I thought if I pushed you away publicly, they would leave you alone while I dealt with the threat." His fingers brushed a wet strand of hair from my face. "I was trying to protect you. You should have told me," I said, fighting the tears that threatened to fall. "You should have trusted me with the truth." "You're right." Nathaniel's admission surprised me. The Alpha King rarely acknowledged errors. "I've spent 3 weeks regretting that decision, searching for you." His eyes held mine, their gold depths sincere. "I never stopped looking, Elise." Before I could respond, Lucas's voice broke the moment. "We're here." The SUV had stopped before what appeared to be nothing more than a cliff face, shrouded in mist and rain. But as Lucas cut the headlights, I could make out the subtle outline of a door set into the rock, a door that would be invisible to anyone who didn't know exactly where to look. "The old mining tunnels," Nathaniel explained, noting my confusion. "Converted during the territorial wars as a refuge, only the royal family and their closest guards know of its existence." Lucas approached the door, placing his hand against a specific section of rock. A moment later, it slid open, revealing a warm glow from within. Nathaniel helped me from the car, his arm supportive around my waist as we approached the entrance. I hesitated at the threshold, something in me reluctant to step into this unknown space, to put myself further under Nathaniel's protection and power. "Elise," he said softly, reading my hesitation. "I know I've given you no reason to trust me, but I swear to you, on my life and the lives of our children, I will make this right." His eyes searched mine. "Just give me the chance to explain everything. After that, if you still want to leave, I won't stop you." Lucas cleared his throat. "Hate to break up the moment, but we should get inside before we have company." I took a deep breath, then nodded. One night. One chance for explanations. I could give him that much. As we stepped into the hidden sanctuary, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was crossing a threshold from which there would be no return. For better or worse, my fate, and the fate of my unborn children, was now intertwined with the Alpha King's once more. The sanctuary beyond the stone door was nothing like I had expected. Instead of the crude military bunker I had imagined, the space opened into a surprisingly elegant cavern. Warm light emanated from recessed fixtures along the walls, illuminating polished stone floors and a central living area, furnished with comfortable, if simple, pieces. Smaller tunnels branched off from the main chamber, leading to what I assumed were sleeping quarters and other rooms. "This place has been in my family for generations," Nathaniel explained, as Lucas secured the entrance behind us. "A refuge during times of conflict." I moved closer to a stone hearth where a fire sprang to life at the touch of Lucas's hand, some modern convenience disguised as rustic charm. The heat was a blessing against my cold skin, and I held my hands out gratefully. "You should change," Lucas said, nodding toward my still damp clothes. "There are things that should fit in the east chamber." He glanced at Nathaniel. "I'll check the perimeter, make sure we weren't followed." After Lucas disappeared down one of the tunnels, an awkward silence fell between Nathaniel and me. 3 weeks ago, we would have moved in perfect sync, comfortable in each other's presence. Now, Uncertainty hung in the air like a physical barrier. "The east chamber is this way," Nathaniel finally said, gesturing to a passage on our right. It was my mother's room when they stayed here. I followed him, taking in the intricate carvings that decorated the tunnel walls, ancient Lycan symbols for protection, family, strength. The chamber itself was small but welcoming, with a bed built into the stone wall, a dresser, and a surprising luxury. An adjoining bathroom with a deep tub fed by an underground hot spring. "The water is naturally heated," Nathaniel said, following my gaze. "It will help with the cold." He moved to the dresser and withdrew soft garments, leggings, a thermal shirt, thick socks. These should fit. They were hers. A shadow passed over his face. "She was built like you, smaller than most Lycan women." I accepted the clothes, our fingers brushing in the exchange. Even that slight contact sent a familiar warmth through me, a reminder of what had been between us. "Thank you," I said, my voice softer than intended. Nathaniel nodded, backing toward the door. "Take your time. There's food when you're ready." He hesitated, as if wanting to say more, then left, closing the door behind him. Alone, I sank onto the edge of the bed, suddenly overwhelmed. The events of the night crashed over me. The attack, the revelation that Nathaniel had been searching for me, the conflicting explanations. I placed a hand on my stomach, seeking reassurance in the tiny lives there. "What do we do now?" I whispered to them. No answer came except the steady rhythm of their hearts, somehow audible to me despite their minute size. The hot water of the bath was a revelation, easing aches I hadn't fully registered in the chaos. As I soaked, I tried to make sense of everything Nathaniel had said. If he was telling the truth, if he had only been trying to protect me from the council, then the past 3 weeks of pain had been based on a misunderstanding. But why hadn't he trusted me with the truth? When I emerged from the bathroom, dressed in his mother's clothes that fit surprisingly well, I felt more human than I had in weeks. The leggings and thermal shirt were soft against my skin, smelling faintly of cedar from the dresser. I found Nathaniel and Lucas in the main chamber, huddled over what appeared to be maps spread across a stone table. They looked up at my approach, and something flickered across Nathaniel's face. Relief, maybe, or something deeper. "Feel better?" he asked. I nodded, drawing closer to the warmth of the fire. "What's happening out there?" Lucas and Nathaniel exchanged glances. "Black River has set up checkpoints on all roads leading out of Silver Creek territory," Lucas said grimly. "They're searching vehicles, questioning travelers. It's only a matter of time before they start going door to door. Why?" I wrapped my arms around myself. Why are they so determined to find me? To find us? Nathaniel's expression darkened. "It's more complicated than just you and the babies." He gestured for me to join them at the table. "There's something I need to show you." The maps spread before them weren't ordinary road maps. They were territorial charts, showing the boundaries between the major Lycan packs of North America. Silver Creek, Nathaniel's northern territory, was highlighted in blue, a vast swath of forest and mountain. The Black River lands to the west were marked in red, smaller, but strategically positioned. 3 months ago, we started finding these, Nathaniel said, placing a small metal object on the table. It looked like an arrowhead, but with strange markings etched into its surface. Silver-tipped hunting bolts on our territory. Lycans were being targeted, but not killed, wounded with silver to send a message. "Black River?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. Lucas nodded. "They've been pushing boundaries for years, but this was different. Organized, strategic. At first we thought it was just territorial aggression," Nathaniel continued. "But then we intercepted this." He slid a folded paper toward me, a letter written in an elegant hand that detailed plans for an alliance between Black River and 3 smaller packs, with the explicit goal of overthrowing the Northern Territory leadership. "They want war," I whispered, the implications sinking in. "They want more than war. They want to reshape Lycan society." Nathaniel's voice was tight with controlled anger. "Return to the old ways, when humans were prey, when packs were isolated and ruled by strength alone." I looked up from the letter, meeting his eyes. "What does this have to do with me, with us?" Nathaniel's hand found mine on the table, his touch tentative, as if expecting rejection. Everything. His thumb brushed over my knuckles. The Northern Territory has always been the most progressive of the major pacts. My father began opening diplomatic channels with humans. I continued that work. Which made you a target, I filled in, beginning to understand. Yes. But there was something else. Nathaniel's eyes held mine, an ancient prophecy, one the older pacts still believe in. It speaks of a union between royal Lycan blood and human lineage producing children who would bridge the two worlds forever, bringing an end to the separation between our kinds. My breath caught. Twins, I whispered. Lucas nodded. The prophecy specifically mentions twins. One with the strength of Lycans, one with the heart of humans. Together they would unite what has been divided. When the Eastern Council learned of our relationship, they didn't just see a king consorting with a human, Nathaniel explained. They saw the potential fulfillment of a prophecy that would undermine everything they believe about keeping bloodlines pure. So you pushed me away, I said softly. To protect me from them, regret shadowed Nathaniel's features. I thought if I publicly renounced you, claimed it was a mistake, they would believe the prophecy wasn't being fulfilled. It would give me time to deal with the Black River threat. His fingers tightened around mine. I never imagined you were already carrying our children. The pieces were falling into place. A picture forming that made terrible sense. My anger at Nathaniel hadn't disappeared, but it was tempered now with understanding. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. The question that had been burning inside me for weeks. I couldn't risk it, Nathaniel replied, pain evident in his voice. Any communication between us was being monitored. Any meeting could have been observed. I needed them to believe I had truly cast you aside. His eyes met mine, vulnerable in a way the Alpha King rarely allowed himself to be. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, Elise. Looking at you with coldness when all I wanted was to take you away from there, to keep you safe. Lucas cleared his throat, reminding us of his presence. I'll check the communications array, see if I can get a secure line to the compound. He disappeared down one of the tunnels, leaving us alone. Silence stretched between us, filled with unspoken words and complicated emotions. I didn't know what to feel. Relief that Nathaniel hadn't truly rejected me, anger at being kept in the dark, fear for our unborn children who were already the focus of so much danger. I understand why you did it, I said finally. But you should have found a way to tell me. I deserve to know. You're right. Nathaniel moved around the table, closing the distance between us. I failed you, Elise. In trying to protect you, I caused more harm than good. His honesty disarmed me. The Nathaniel I knew rarely admitted fault. The burden of leadership had taught him to project certainty, even in uncertain times. What happens now? I asked, looking back at the maps with their ominous red markings. Black River knows about the babies. They won't stop hunting us. No, they won't. Nathaniel's voice hardened, which is why we need to end this threat once and for all. His hand reached out, hesitant, before gently touching my cheek. But first, I need to know if there's anything left between us to save, if you can forgive me for what I did. The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. 3 weeks ago, I had been certain of my feelings for Nathaniel. Now, everything was complicated by hurt, by fear, by the lives growing inside me. I don't know, I answered honestly. I understand why you did what you did, but understanding isn't the same as forgetting. Nathaniel nodded, accepting my answer without pushing for more. Whatever happens between us, I will protect you and our children with my life. That I can promise you. Before I could respond, Lucas burst back into the chamber, his face tight with urgency. We have a problem. A big one. Nathaniel straightened immediately, his body language shifting from vulnerable lover to Alpha King in an instant. What is it? Morgan has called an emergency council meeting. He's challenging your fitness to rule based on your human contamination. And he's got witnesses claiming you've hidden a pregnant human carrying your heirs. Lucas's eyes darted to me. They're invoking the ancient right of succession. If you don't appear before the council by dawn to deny the claims, Morgan takes the throne. The color drained from Nathaniel's face. He's forcing my hand. That's not all. Lucas continued grimly. Black River forces are gathering at the border. If the succession happens, their alliance goes into effect immediately. They'll have legitimate access to our territory. It's a coup, I whispered, the pieces clicking into place. Morgan's been working with Black River all along. This was their plan, to force you to choose between the throne and us. Nathaniel's jaw tightened, his eyes flaring gold with barely contained rage. They think they know what I'll choose. His gaze met mine, fierce and determined. They're about to learn how wrong they are. The tension in the sanctuary was palpable as Nathaniel and Lucas quickly formulated a plan. I stood by the fire, watching them transform from the men I knew into warriors preparing for battle. There was an efficiency to their movements, a shorthand in their communication that spoke of years fighting side by side. "We have 4 hours until dawn," Nathaniel said, checking the weapons cache hidden behind a stone panel in the wall. Silver wouldn't kill him, but the knives and bullets he selected would be lethal to his enemies. "Lucas, contact the Royal Guard. Only those we know are loyal." Lucas nodded, already typing rapidly on a secure satellite phone. "Olivia and the Eastern contingent are still yours. Commander Reed as well. That gives us about 30 wolves we can trust. It's not enough against Black River's forces," Nathaniel muttered, his expression grim. I moved closer, drawn into their planning despite my fear. What about the citizens? The regular pack members? Surely they wouldn't support Morgan or an alliance with Black River. Nathaniel's eyes met mine, a flicker of surprise in their golden depths. "The pack follows strength, Elise. If Morgan takes the throne by ancient right, many will accept him rather than risk civil war. But if they knew the truth about Morgan's betrayal, about Black River's plans, wouldn't they fight for you?" I pressed, remembering the loyalty I'd seen in the eyes of Silver Creek's residents when Nathaniel walked among them. "They love you as their king, not because you're the strongest, but because you're fair, because you've brought peace." Something shifted in Nathaniel's expression, a realization dawning. "You're right." He turned to Lucas. "We need to expose Morgan before the council meeting, show everyone his treachery." "And how do we do that?" Lucas asked, pragmatic as always. "We have suspicions, but no proof. Nothing concrete enough to sway the council." "Yes, we do," Nathaniel said quietly, his eyes finding mine again. "We have Elise." A chill ran through me. "What do you mean?" "The prophecy." Nathaniel moved toward me, purpose in every step. "It's why they fear you, why they've been hunting you. If the council and the pack see you, hear you speak of what Black River tried to do." "You want me to testify?" The thought of standing before the Lycan Council, of facing their judgment and potentially their wrath, made my heart race with fear. "Not just testify." Nathaniel took my hands in his touch warm and steadying. "I want you by my side, as my mate, my queen." The declaration stunned me into silence. Even Lucas looked surprised, his eyebrows rising toward his hairline. "Nathaniel," I finally managed, "you can't just—" "I can, and I should have from the beginning." There was a new certainty in his voice, as if he'd made a decision he'd been avoiding for too long. "When I sent you away to protect you, I was wrong. I was afraid, not of the council or Black River, but of what it meant to truly claim you as mine, to challenge centuries of tradition." He brought his hand to my cheek, cradling it with a gentleness that belied his strength. "But these past weeks without you showed me what truly matters. You are my strength, Elise. You and these children you carry. I won't hide that any longer." My emotions warred within me. Love for this man who had captured my heart from our first meeting, fear for what his declaration would mean, lingering hurt from the pain of separation. "The council will never accept a human queen," I whispered, voicing the practical concern when what I really wanted to ask was if he truly meant it, if this wasn't just another strategy. "They won't have a choice," Nathaniel replied, his tone leaving no room for argument. "The ancient laws are clear. An alpha's chosen mate cannot be challenged once the bond is formalized. It supersedes even the council's authority." Lucas cleared his throat. "While I'm all for dramatic declarations of love, we're running out of time. Dawn is approaching, and we need to move if we're going to reach the council chambers." Nathaniel nodded, not taking his eyes from mine. Elise? It has to be your choice. I won't force this on you. I took a deep breath, considering everything. The danger, the uncertain future, the love I still felt despite the pain. If I do this, if I stand with you, I need to know that you'll never shut me out again. No more secrets, no more decisions made for my protection without consulting me. I swear it, Nathaniel said without hesitation. Equal partners, in all things. I nodded slowly. Then let's end this. Together. The next hour passed in a blur of preparation. Lucas coordinated with the loyal guards while Nathaniel outlined our approach to the council chambers. I changed into more formal attire found in a storage chest. A simple dress of deep blue that had once belonged to Nathaniel's mother, altered quickly to accommodate my slightly smaller frame. As I fastened my grandmother's silver pendant around my neck, I caught Nathaniel watching me from the doorway, an unreadable expression on his face. "What?" I asked, suddenly self-conscious. "You look like her," he said softly. "My mother. She would have liked you." The comment touched me unexpectedly. Nathaniel rarely spoke of his parents, both lost in the last great pack war when he was barely grown. "She was brave too," he continued, entering the room fully. Never afraid to challenge tradition when tradition was wrong. He approached, reaching out to touch the pendant at my throat. "This is your protection charm, isn't it? Your grandmother's?" I nodded, surprised he remembered the story I'd told him months ago. "She said it would keep me safe in dark times." Nathaniel's fingers traced the crescent moon design. It's an old Lycan symbol, one for those with the gift of seeing beyond. Healers and visionaries wore it. His eyes met mine, curious. "Your grandmother? Was she fully human?" The question caught me off guard. I always thought so. She never spoke of Lycan heritage. But as I said it, memories surfaced. My grandmother's uncanny ability to sense storms before they came, the way animals always seemed drawn to her knowledge of herbs that could heal almost any ailment. "Perhaps there was more to your lineage than you knew," Nathaniel mused. "It would explain your resilience, your ability to carry Lycan children." His hand moved from the pendant to rest gently on my stomach. "They're strong tonight. Can you feel them?" I covered his hand with mine, the gesture intimate in a way that transcended the physical. "Yes. It's like they know something's happening." For a moment we stood like that, connected by the lives we'd created, by a bond that had withstood separation and misunderstanding. Then Lucas appeared in the doorway, his expression reminding us of the urgency of our situation. "The vehicles are ready," he said. "Olivia and 6 guards are waiting at the rendezvous point." Nathaniel nodded, his demeanor shifting back to the Alpha King. We moved now. The journey to Silver Creek was tense, our small convoy moving through forest roads to avoid Black River checkpoints. I sat beside Nathaniel in the lead vehicle, watching the familiar landscape emerge from darkness as the first hints of dawn touched the eastern sky. When we reached the council chambers, Nathaniel said, his voice low enough that only I could hear, "Stay close to me. No matter what happens, what accusations are made, remember that you belong there. You are my chosen mate, the mother of my heirs. Let them see your strength." I nodded, drawing courage from his certainty. "And if they don't accept me, if they still see me as a contamination?" Nathaniel's hand found mine, his grip firm. "Then we leave. Together. The throne means nothing without you beside me." The simplicity of his answer, the absolute conviction in his voice, swept away the last of my doubts. This wasn't strategy or politics. This was truth. Silver Creek emerged from the forest, the small town still slumbering in the pre-dawn light. Beyond it, on the highest point overlooking the valley, stood the council hall, an imposing structure of stone and timber that had stood for centuries. Even from a distance, I could see movement around it, figures gathering for what they thought would be the end of Nathaniel's reign. Our vehicle stopped at the base of the hill. Further advance by car would alert the sentries Morgan had surely posted. "We go on foot from here," Nathaniel decided. Through the old ceremonial path, the guards formed a protective circle around us as we ascended the hill, through an ancient trail half hidden by undergrowth. It wound through stands of towering pines, marked occasionally by stone cairns engraved with Lycan symbols. The path itself seemed to hum with energy, as if generations of alpha rulers had left their essence in the very soil. Halfway up, Nathaniel suddenly stopped, his head tilting as if listening to something beyond human hearing. The guards tensed, hands moving to weapons. "Black River Scouts," Lucas murmured, his own senses detecting what I could not. "Circling the eastern approach." "They're earlier than expected," Nathaniel growled. Morgan must have invited them to witness his ascension. A decision crystallized in my mind, clear, certain, unstoppable. "Let me go ahead." All eyes turned to me in surprise. "What?" Nathaniel's brow furrowed in confusion. "They're looking for you. For a fighting force," I explained, the plan forming as I spoke. "They won't be watching for a solitary woman. I can reach the council chamber, delay the proceedings until you can deal with the scouts and join me." "Absolutely not," Nathaniel began, but I cut him off. "You said we were partners, equal in all things." I met his gaze without flinching. "This is me being your partner, your strength." Lucas surprisingly nodded. "It's tactically sound. They won't harm her in the council chamber. Too many witnesses, too sacred a space, and her presence alone will throw Morgan off balance." Nathaniel looked between us, conflicted. Finally, his shoulders set with decision. 5 minutes. Give us 5 minutes to neutralize the scouts. Then we'll be right behind you." I nodded, adrenaline already coursing through me. "Elise." Nathaniel pulled me close, his forehead touching mine in an intimate gesture. "Remember who you are, the mother of prophecy, my chosen queen." His lips brushed mine, gentle yet fierce. "Show them what that means." With those words echoing in my heart, I slipped away from the group, following a smaller path that branched toward the back of the council hall. As I moved through the lightening forest, my grandmother's pendant warm against my skin, I felt a strange calm settle over me. I was no longer running, no longer hiding. For the first time since learning of my pregnancy, I was moving toward something instead of away. The massive doors of the council hall loomed before me, carved with the history of the packs. I took a deep breath, thinking of my unborn children, of Nathaniel, of the future we might build if we survived this day. Then, head high and back straight as my grandmother had taught me, I pushed the doors open and stepped into the chamber beyond. Every head turned as I entered. Council members in their ceremonial robes, pack representatives gathered to witness the succession, Morgan himself standing at the center dais where Nathaniel should have been. Shock rippled through the assembly like a physical wave. "I believe," I said, my voice clear in the stunned silence, "you were discussing my children." And as dawn broke fully over Silver Creek, casting golden light through the high windows of the council hall, I took the first step toward claiming my place, not as the human mistake, but as the Lycan queen I was always meant to be. In that moment, with danger all around and an uncertain future ahead, I finally understood what my grandmother had tried to teach me all those years ago. True strength wasn't about physical power or royal bloodlines. It was about standing tall when the world tried to make you small. I placed my hand over my stomach, over the twins who would one day bridge 2 worlds, and smiled at the shocked faces before me. The mistake had become the miracle, and no one would ever take that from me again.